Good morning, everyone. Yes, my microphone is on. Good morning, everyone. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay, and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Peter Reid, Zahir Bayat, Nellie Volport, Dylan Reid, and our DST is Nicole Ivanoff. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are now also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually have been registered in advance will be connecting with their computer or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator. For both in-person and virtual participants, the Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today, I'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I'll comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation to the committee on the application. Then individuals, either in support or opposition to the application, will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on the speakers in the hearing room first, and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, any minutes to confirm?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and panel members. There are no minutes ready for adoption today.
Any declarations of interest in the morning session? Mr. Reid?
Yes, for 6 and 7.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing none. Are there any deferral requests for this morning?
And through you, Mr. Chair, I'll state for the record there's no files to be closed today. And in terms of deferral requests, we do have 3 deferral requests for this morning's agenda. Item number 6, municipal address of 66 Beverley Street, file number A0399/24TEY. Item number 7, municipal address of 64 Beverley Street, file number A0401/24TEY. And item number 12, municipal address of 43 Callender Street, file number A0424/24TEY.
Great, thank you. All right, then we will begin with item number 1. This is an application for 1354 to 1360 Queen Street West and 8 to 14 Brock Avenue. Purpose of the application is to alter the development standards for the 11-story mixed-use building by increasing the height from 39 meters to 40 meters, reducing the terracing setbacks fronting Ab Street and Brock Avenue, increasing the total gross floor area, and increasing the residential gross floor area, and reducing the indoor and outdoor amenity space. This building will provide a total of 222 residential dwelling units as well as non-residential spaces to be located on the ground floor. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised diagram 6 received May 22nd, 2024. Revised zoning waiver received June 28, 2024. Covering letter from the agent, 2 covering letters from the agent, a supplementary letter from the agent. Decision numbers OLT-22-002167 and OLT-22-00223 dated July 27, 2023, affecting the subject property. Agent email correspondence received June 28th. An arborist report, a civil servicing letter by an engineering company, planning rationale prepared by Bousfields, presentation materials by the agent, transportation letter prepared by BA Consulting Group, and a site-specific bylaw 334-2024. We have an advisory report from Metrolinx. We have correspondence in opposition from the Parkdale Residents Association and correspondence in opposition from 3 tenants of Parkdale High Park.
And through you, Mr. Chair, we have 1 registered speaker in opposition for this item.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Tom Jankos. I'm here to represent the property owner.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like we're going to need a presentation from you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. If you can go to the second page of the presentation deck. So the owner has owned this property for almost 10 years, and they started the application process almost 5 years ago. So it's been a long process for the owner. What ultimately resulted was the approval of an 11-story building that had some terracing. And during the 5-year span where the application was going through the process, a lot of things have changed in the city, specifically in relation to this neighborhood. One is the context with regards to approvals that occurred as this application was going through the process. And also in June of 2023, the City of Toronto and planning staff revised their mid-rise design guidelines to get rid of the terracing that used to be required. And they did that, or they did this to facilitate or encourage more mid-rise buildings, avoiding this terraced setback that was somewhat expensive and prohibited a lot of development along these avenues. So a lot has changed in terms of a policy context as well when this application was first submitted. So what you have is on the first page, in red, you have the subject site. It is in the northwest corner of Queen and Brock. And what's important is directly across the street from this site, so to the southwest, you have a Create TO site, a City of Toronto site. That site originally came in with an application for a 10-story building across the street. That application was revised to a 16-story building, and that 16-story building was recommended by staff and it was approved by council. So that happened during the processing of the application of the site that we're speaking of. And to the east of the subject property at 1266 Queen Street, just south of the tracks, just west of Dufferin on the north side, 1266 Queen, that was approved recently in June by council for a 24-story building directly down the street. So the context has totally changed in terms of when this application was approved for an 11-story building. It shows 25 on this mapping. That's a mistake. It should be 24. Next page, please. So as this application was wrapping up, we were working with planning staff and heritage staff, and we communicated to them that we wanted to make changes to the height of the building and also to the setbacks to respond to the emerging context as well as to the new mid-rise guidelines. And heritage staff communicated that they really had no issue with what we were doing as long as we did not deviate from the setbacks that were approved along Queen Street. Those were very important, and those setbacks have not changed. And what I also like to say is this application preserves all of the heritage on site. Initially, it was going to demolish the corner building, but through negotiations with heritage staff, that corner building is now being retained. So all of the heritage on site is being retained. So what this page shows is the Create TO site that I mentioned, the City of Toronto site across the street was approved at 16 stories. That is shown in the photographs. And directly behind that, there's 245 Dunn Avenue, which is an antiquated 20-story slab building. So you see some taller buildings in the immediate neighborhood. Next slide, please. What you have here is on the left-hand side, there is a image that is extracted from the city's own mid-rise guidelines that have been approved and that are being applied to development sites. And previously, the mid-rise guidelines used to ask for this terracing to deal with angular planes. And what the City of Toronto has recently done in 2023 is they changed that. So right now, those mid-rise guidelines contemplate a lot of built forms. And one of the built forms is they contemplate an 11-story building going up without any terracing or setbacks being required at the rear of the property. So in response to these guidelines, what we've asked the city is we wanted relief from the setbacks that were previously incorporated into the building to align with emerging city policy. On the right-hand side, what you see is the blue building is the current building, and you see that the terracing has been, some of it has been removed. There is still some terracing that city staff asked us to retain, and we've retained that terracing that you see, I think it's at the 9th floor. And then the building that was recently approved by the city on the city's own lands, what you see, the 16-story building, that is a 16-story building that goes up with no terracing at all. And it's just, again, an example of the emerging context and how this application in front of you today is kind of trying to respond to that emerging context in a respectful manner. Next page, please.
Just going to ask you if
Yes,
you can
sir.
just kind of wrap it up fairly quickly.
Yep, I will wrap it up. So if we can go to page 7, please. Again, we use the Create TO site as a guide, and what you see is the 16-story building there is 50 stories. The original application that was approved for this site was 50 meters. The original application that was approved for this site was 39 meters, and we're asking for a variance of 1 meter. So in discussion, in next page, please. This just illustrates the terracing that has been filled in to kind of respond to the new mid-rise guidelines. And the next page, please, which is the last page, and I'll wrap it up. Just give me one more minute. This illustrates what was approved to the left and what is being proposed currently. So what you have is a 1 meter increase in height, so about 39 inches increase in height. And when we initially started conversations with city staff, our initial application came in at 13 stories. And planning staff, city staff said they cannot support 13 stories. So what we did is, through discussions and through our own kind of decisions, we reduced the height from 13 stories to only ask for a 1 meter height increase. And what we've done is we've increased the height by 1 meter, and we've also reduced the floor to ceiling heights on the existing building to allow us to slide in another floor. But overall, the height increases by
I'm going to
1 meter.
ask you to
will
hold it
stop.
there if that's okay.
Thank you.
We have some speakers, so why don't we just go right to our first speaker? Mr. Barton?
Michael Barton, you have been unmuted.
Morning. Can you hear me okay?
A little louder, please, sir.
Okay, I will. Is that better?
Yes, thanks. Your name and address, sir.
My name is Michael Barton. My address is 14.
Hold on, sir. Can I just ask you to hold on a second? Okay, Mr. Barton, please proceed.
Yes, it's Michael Barton, 1489 Abbeywood Drive in Oakville. I'm representing, acting as agent for the owners of 1366 Queen Street West, which is next door. I'm a registered professional planner. I've been qualified as an expert in land use planning by TLAB on many occasions. So I was retained to give my opinion with respect to the application that's before you. So again, the current as of right permissions on the property were established through the official plan and zoning amendment that was they were approved by OLT on July 7, 2023. The OPA redesignated 8 to 14 Brock from neighborhoods to mixed-use areas, so that extended the mixed-use area designation to Ave Street, and then brought it closer to that low-density neighborhood to the north. The zoning amendment changed the designation on that property from residential to commercial residential, and then applied the site-specific exceptions that are on there today. In the OLT decision, there's a number of elements that are identified as key to the land use planning and design merits for those applications. That includes the deployment of height, massing, and density in a manner that is sensitive to the adjacent lower rise properties, including the residential area to the north. There's multiple step backs in height that were proposed, as we already heard, towards the rear of the property that were intended to provide transition from the maximum height and 11 stories down to Ave Street. And then there was also a provision of what was described as a low-rise townhouse-like facade along Ave Street. So that was a key element to the approvals that were put in place. So in general, this is a property located in a mixed-use corridor adjacent to low-rise residential low-density uses to the north. So the proposal is seeking to go from 11 to 12 stories, and then seeking relief to the OLT approval for height, those step backs, increasing the gross floor area, increasing the residential gross floor area, reducing the commercial floor area, and then reducing the indoor and outdoor amenity space. So the intent of the application appears to be to increase the density and scale of the development relative to the OLT approved amendments. The increases are going to reduce the mix of commercial and residential on the property, and also the step backs that were meant to provide for transition to the low density neighborhood. In terms of the official plans, the development criteria that are set out for mixed use areas include creating a balance of high quality commercial, residential, institutional, and open space, locating and massing new buildings to provide a transition between areas of different development intensity and scale. So that includes providing appropriate step backs and stepping down in heights, and then locating and massing new buildings to adequately limit shadow impacts on adjacent neighborhoods. And then the final one I identify was providing indoor and outdoor recreation space for building residents in every significant multi-unit residential development. So my opinion is that the application before you does not maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan for mixed use areas. The elimination of the rear building step backs, well, I did hear the comments that were made about the evolving nature. It's not going to provide appropriate transition to that low density neighborhood as was intended under the amendments that were approved by OLT less than a year ago. The change is going to increase the built form density, height, and scale, and also modify the shadow, privacy, and overlook characteristics. In terms of the intent of the zoning bylaw, the purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is to implement the official plan through specific performance standards. So my opinion is variances 1 and 2 are going to increase the maximum height while reducing the number, size, and scale of the rear step backs that were intended to provide a transition in height, density, and scale. Variances 3 and 4 will increase the scale and density of the building beyond that which has been tested and approved by the OLT by reducing the step backs that were critical to that building design. And then 5 and 6 are going to reduce the indoor and outdoor amenity areas on a per dwelling unit basis with no corresponding increase in other indoor and outdoor amenity areas. So my opinion is the application is also not minor. The increase in building height and scale, particularly at the rear for the step backs, will result in adverse sunlight, privacy, and overlook impacts relative to the OLT approved decision, and will also not be accompanied by increases in amenity area for the future residents. And then finally, it is my opinion the variance is not desirable for the development and use of the property. The OLT approved design incorporates height, step back, density, and scale that seeks to balance residential and commercial uses. This was tested and
Hey,
evaluated.
Mr. Barton, I'm just going to ask you to kind of wrap it up, please.
Yes, 10 seconds. So again, this was tested at OLT, and in my opinion, the current proposal is appropriate, or the OLT approved proposal was appropriate. So in my opinion, the variances do not meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act.
Thank you. Mr. Barton, I just want to confirm, so at your outset, you said you were representing 1366 Queen Street West. You've talked a lot about the impacts on the adjacent residential community. Did you speak to what the impact is on specifically on your client?
Yes, so they're in a 2-story mixed-use building today. So they, this increase in height, as well as the number of stories, is directly next to them. So there are concerns. Again, it's not the committee's concern about construction, but again, just the scale of development next to their building. There's also the reduction of the step backs at the rear adjacent to their building. So again, just the concerns of the scale, but then also overall character and appropriate density and height and scale for this overall neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have another speaker? That's it? Okay. Sir, back to you.
Thank you. I want to reiterate that this application did not come out of a vacuum. It came out of conversations with planning staff and area residents. Mr. Barton nor his client ever attended any public meetings, public consultations, participated in any hearings throughout the 5-year process. So this is the first time that I'm hearing from Mr. Barton. I want to specifically speak to his concern with the residents in the immediate area. Not one resident that lives in the immediate area has voiced any concerns on the application. In terms of a lot of the comments brought forward by Mr. Barton regarding how we do or do not conform to the official plan, he did not reference any specific policies. He did not provide any evidence regarding shadow impacts, because there really is not any when you fill in the back of a building, because sun shines from the south to the north. So a lot of the comments were comments that were not substantiated or made any specific reference to the OPA policies that we do not conform to. And also noteworthy is there is not anything from city staff, any division of city staff that references the fact that we do or do not apply or conform to city OP policies, etc. I think in terms of if there was something that Mr. Barton provided that substantiated some of the comments he made, I would love to look at that and have discussions with them, but there isn't. And one thing I also want to speak to is, and sorry I'm speaking quickly because I know I have a limited time, we're not asking to add an additional story. We're asking for an additional 1 meter, which is essentially 39 inches. And the way that we squeezed in another floor is by reducing the floor to ceiling heights, because we knew that planning staff and the community were sensitive to height. So we didn't want to add another floor, but we did this by mitigating the overall height of the approved building. And the last comment is, Mr. Barton keeps on referring to the OLT decision. And again, the OLT did make a decision on it. That doesn't mean that this application is frozen in time. And what his comments also ignore is we have spent months since we made this original application, asking initially for 13 stories, working with all divisions of city staff in order to hopefully garner this committee's support. And we don't have any letters in opposition from any city division. I just wanted to reference that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? Dylan?
Yeah, I have a bunch of questions. First, just curious, what's the new floor-to-ceiling height that you've just dropped it to?
It is typically about 2.95, and I think we probably reduced it to around, so it's typically 9 foot clear, and I think we reduced it to about 8.5 feet clear, which is still market, but it allowed us to get another floor in without increasing the height. So probably about 8.5 feet.
Right, okay. So I was a little disappointed in your presentation that you didn't actually address specifically the step back at the rear, which I think is there was a letter from the Parkdale Association that has expressed concerns, as well as the speaker. I did read the Bothfields report. Apparently planning is not too happy with the extra height, but isn't so unhappy that it wrote anything about it, according to the report.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
In terms of the rear setback, so now I believe there's a 1.2 meter rear setback starting at the third floor, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Now, can you explain to me, understand that the new regulations or the new guidelines do ask for a certain amount of step back,
Yes.
not in the same kind of terracing as was previously the case.
Yes.
And the image you put up of an 11-story building had a 12.5 meter setback from the property line. Now, I also understand that you are allowed to use the actual street width as part of that. Can you go through the step backs at the back specifically that you've implemented and how they fit with the new city requirements?
Yes, I will do my best to try to. So the mid-rise guidelines have a series of images regarding what the context is and what the setback is, that is applicable. The one that I shared is the closest to our situation, but slightly different. Our situation is unique because Ave Street is not a lane, it's a street. And typically when you have a street, they don't apply that angular plane. But we did provide some step backs to our original application, so we wanted to respect that. But again, Ave Street is not a lane, it's a street. So this has a 12.5 meter setback to the property line adjacent to the blue building. We have approximately, I believe it's a 10-meter setback to that property line. So in discussions with staff, we were discussing where the setback should be and how those setbacks should work so that we use the mid-rise guidelines, the new mid-rise guidelines as a guide. And because they didn't have a specific reference to a 10-meter setback, what we did is we kind of just went back and forth on what we thought was appropriate with city staff, and that's how we landed at what we're proposing today with the setbacks that you noted.
Which is 1.2 meters.
It is, I believe it's a 1 point, I think it's a little less than 1 meter at the 1, 2, 3, on the fourth floor, and then we go up, then there's what is that? I don't have my glasses on. The lower floor has a 1.2 meter setback on the fourth floor, then we have a 3.1 meter setback. I'm sorry, this is
Right.
the text.
Okay. And that 1.2, so is that like at the top of the townhouses at the back?
That would be roughly at the top of the podium. Yeah, so probably at the top of the townhouses.
Okay. Right. Okay, I think those are my those are my key questions. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Anyone else? Zahir?
Just a quick one. I think a lot of the questions I had have already been addressed. Thank you. Will the additional floor now provide additional residences?
Yes.
Commercial?
Yes, it would, sir. We have not changed the commercial. The commercial has remained unchanged. This would simply provide more residential
More
units.
residential.
And what I'd like to communicate, committee, is we have asked for a minor reduction in the amenity space. If the committee in its wisdom had a concern with those variances, we'd be happy to walk away. What we did is we kept the amenity space the same, but because we added in another floor, the rate actually decreased. But that is not a hill that we want to die on. We'd love to build this building, and we're just trying to make this thing work in a way that's respectful and, again, didn't garner any letters of opposition from city staff or surrounding residents aside from our neighbor that showed up this
Okay,
afternoon.
thank you. Dylan?
Oh yeah, sorry, I wanted to follow up on the amenity space. So did you add some amenity space in relation to the extra 50 units that you're planning to build?
We did not. The amenity space remained the same.
And is there any way we can actually increase that amenity space? Because that's a lot of new units.
Yes, if committee had an issue with the two variances relating to amenity space, I would happily walk away from those and we would provide the additional amenity space.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Just a couple questions. The OLT hearing, was it a settlement or did it go to a full hearing?
It went to a full hearing.
And who were the opponents?
The opponents being who attended the,
Yeah, were there any parties or it was just you and the city?
I believe it was just us and the city, yes.
Okay. And the unit mix, so as Dylan points out, you're increasing the number of junior ones and reducing 2s and 3s. Is that consistent with the mix that was approved at the OLT?
We haven't made any changes to the mix, and the mix would continue to evolve through the site plan process and whether this building is actually a rental building, which we're building in the West End currently, or a market condominium building. But we did not make any changes to the.
And your analysis shows that there's a demand for junior ones relative to 2s and 3s?
We typically get into a marketing analysis once we're going through the site plan process. So what we have now is the city has their standards where they want a minimum of 10% 3 bedrooms, and I think it's 15%
Right.
3 bedrooms. So we typically meet that, and then once you go through the marketing and sales process, that'll inform your site plan process on what the suite mix is. What we're finding is on rental buildings, people like the units to be a little larger, and on condominium buildings, there's still this demand for smaller units because the price per square foot in the city of Toronto is astronomical. But we haven't locked down the unit mix at this
Okay.
point in time.
Although the description talks about 51 additional junior ones though, right? So that's your going in position?
Yes,
Okay.
and again, that can continue to change and evolve.
Okay. Panel, any more questions? Thank you, sir. We'll take this into committee. Who wants to start? Dylan? His finger's on the button. I just see it.
I was actually turning off them. Yeah, so I'm kind of on two minds in this one. I certainly understand the desire to get rid of some of the terracing, and I know that that's the direction the city's going in. I feel like the setback at the first level could have been more significant in order to maintain the sense of a lower, in order to maintain the sense, the transition to the low rise. Like, I don't think that the context that was focused on is relevant because the city building backs onto a high-rise building as opposed to a low-rise community. Overall, I mean, I'm glad that at least there is a little bit of setback at the rear, and I don't think that's necessarily a hill to die on. I appreciate the applicant's offer to eliminate variances 5 and 6 in terms of in reducing amenity space. I think that's really important, especially 50. That's a very large number of additional units. So I do think that if we do pass this, we should eliminate variances 5 and 6.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Nellie?
Hello? Okay, yeah. I agree with Mr. Reid that variances 5 and 6, to me, we talked about the changes in the context and in the city bylaws, but those requirements for amenity space, they're still intact, and I think they're important, especially with with the climate change and people needing access to amenities. So I agree that variances 5 and 6 should be struck, and the rest I'm okay with that.
Okay, anyone else? I'll look to a motion then. Dylan?
I move that we approve these variances 1 to 4, but refuse variances 5 to 6.
Okay, motion to, there are no conditions.
Oh, Metrolinx might be
It was an advisory, I thought. Is it a condition?
Through the chair, there is a warning clause from Metrolinx should you wish to impose it.
Yeah, and so also including the warning clause.
Okay. All right, motion to approve by Mr. Reid, seconded by Ms. Volport. All in favor? You have your approval, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that was removing 5 and 6, right? Removing 5 and 6. All right, item number 2, 224 Augusta Avenue is been postponed. So we will move to item number 3. Which is 53 Alameda Avenue. This is an application to construct a new 2-story detached ancillary building containing 1 garden suite in the rear yard of the lot, containing a main 3-story detached dwelling. In 2023, the main dwelling with alterations and 3 dwelling units was approved as outlined in decision A1228/22TEY. There will be a total of 4 dwelling units on this lot and 2 parking spaces located between the main dwelling and the lot and the 2-story detached ancillary building. Hang on a second.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have a registered speaker for this item in interest.
Great, I'll just read the materials into the record. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of trees on the subject property, decision number A1228/22 TEY affecting the subject property, and presentation materials from the agent. Ms. Evangelista.
Mrs. Evangelista, you have been unmuted.
Ida, are you there?
Good morning. Oh, I didn't realize I had to unmute myself. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 53 Alameda.
Thank you. Nicole, did we have a speaker? Yes. Ida, we have someone waiting to speak to this item, so we'll need a short presentation.
Yes. The application that you have in front of you is for a garden suite behind the current subject property. This particular garden suite that we are proposing, we recognize that this area is geared more to families, young families, and we have spoken to planning. Planning and transportation are in support of this application. Planning recognize they do want to encourage and recognize a more intense form of development in this area, as it is an 11-minute walk within the new Eglinton LRT. This property is designated neighborhoods in the official plan. And what we are doing is we are encouraging additional living space within the city. This particular home that we have, the variances that we are proposing, we are proposing 2 parking spots in the back. Again, we do recognize this is an area for younger families. We do have families that recognize that they do need a vehicle. We are proposing the 2 parking spaces. The owners have notched out the rear of the property to allow maneuverability in and out. And as I've mentioned, transportation does not have a problem with the 2 parking spaces in the rear, nor does planning. In regards to landscaping, we are putting landscaping around in the rear yard as much as possible. We have also created the stairs in the back are open risers to allow penetration into the ground, and we will be adding river rock and grass area underneath the stairs, as you can see. So we have added a considerable amount of green space in the back, even though we do have the 2 parking spaces. Our height, we are asking for an additional 3.5 inches of height. However, as the height is taken from the established grade and not the actual grade, we do comply with the actual height on the actual grade. However, not with the established grade, and that is because the topography of the land, it slopes considerably back there. So we are working with the land as is. But the actual structure itself is actually 5.99 meters in height. As you see, the 45-degree angle, as it's outlined in yellow, is where the 45-degree angle should commence. However, the 45-degree angle starts at 4.43 meters. And that's just to allow, because we are proposing this to be a 2-bedroom garden suite. And this just allows more headroom on the second floor. And I do believe, Mr. Chair, members, that what we are proposing is a gentle residential intensification that will fit and live harmoniously with the neighboring homes. This is situated in Oakwood Village area. It's close to buses and subways. It is pedestrian and bike friendly, and I am open to any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. We can go to our speaker.
Michael, you have been unmuted.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Michael Hartke. I live at 49 Alameda Avenue. I'm not the owner of the property, nor am I an agent or acting on behalf of the owner. The owner is my common law spouse of 25 years. We've resided here in our home for 25 years in our neighborhood. As homeowners or residents here in the neighborhood, we were
Sorry, sir, could I just ask you to speak up just a little?
Certainly. I'll turn up my microphone. Is that better for you?
Thank you.
Thank you. We were somewhat surprised by the desire to build a garden suite at 53 Alameda. The sort of density has increased through this neighborhood quite quickly. I guess I'm a little confused in ourselves and some of the neighbors in the exact purpose of which application we would be speaking to today, whether it is the actual construction of a garden suite or it's the request for the variances that the developer has made.
Sorry, sir. Yeah, I think what we have before us is a number of variances that are specific to the garden suite.
Mm-hmm. So we would be speaking to the variances only. It was unclear from both the notice of the meeting that we received and the posted notice as to what the discussion would be.
Yes, so they had already received approval to construct the main dwelling, and this application is solely for the garden suite.
Right, so it would be the actual construction of the suite or just for the variances?
Well, it's just the variances. The construction of the suite are subject to a building code and a building permit. So
Okay,
that's sort of the next stage they'd have to go through.
All right, so if I might make the observation or the comment that in the notice of the hearing where it says to make your views known, if you might in some future time include with regard to the variances and not in regard to any other matter, just to make it easier for us to understand what's going on with all this paperwork. So with respect to the variances, we're 2 lots over. We ourselves aren't affected by the garden suite.
Sir, we're still, you're talking very low. I'm having a little difficulty hearing. If you could just speak up a little bit more, please.
All right, that's okay. So in regards to the variances themselves, then we would be unopposed. We're 2 units away from the property, and it's nothing that would be an imposition on us.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you for your time.
No worries. Ida, I don't think there's much there for you to respond to. Ida, you there?
Yes, I am. Yes, I heard what Michael had to say, but I'm not quite sure how I can address. There wasn't any questions. We are here. We did get approval for the main house, and today it is for the garden suite.
Right. All right. Anything further to add before we go into committee?
No,
Oh,
Mr.
sorry.
Chair.
We have a question for you.
Yes.
Yeah, so you are fairly far under the soft landscaping requirements. Would you be open to having a condition that you use permeable pavers for the driveway and the parking spots?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Member Reid, yes, we are open to that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Zahir?
Thank you, Chair. I had the same question related to soft landscaping, but I take it at this point in time, there is no structure in the back, no garage as such. Would that be correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a small structure, there is a small garage which is being removed. And that was with the original application for the home.
And that would have been a single-car garage or a double-car garage?
It was a single, I believe it was a single tandem.
Yeah. My concern, and I'll just express this to you, and perhaps you can respond. My concern is that you're putting in 2 cars, parking spots for 2 cars. You're talking about, I forget how many units the main structure has, plus the garden suite. So I think it's a total of 4, if I heard correctly.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned, families with children. When you look at the landscape in the back, you're putting in a parking lot, a small parking lot. So if you've got children, my concern would be that you've got a garden that there's very little space for kids or for families, and there are 4 families going to be living on this property. So I do have a concern about the fact that your landscaping is diminished. And yes, thank you for the permeable pavers, but permeable pavers are not the same as soft landscaping. So I have a concern about the landscaping when you've got 4 families, presumably some with children, who are hopefully going to be able to utilize the space. So that's my concern to you. I'm not sure if you'd like to respond.
There is, in the rear yard of the home, there is a considerable area that is and will be containing soft landscaping. There is a family with 2 very small children. Actually, my apologies, with 1 very small child. And the other parking spot is for the owner that will be living also in this home. So there is a considerable amount, and you could see from my diagram that is now posted, that you can see that there is an area there that, should it be required, you can actually have a seating area back there, and it will be safe because there will be an area where it's there's a demarcation. So I believe with the permeable pavers, with the soft landscaping that we have, I believe that this will be satisfactory, and it's been working up until now. There is a very large area back there, through you, Mr. Chair, that again, as I repeat, it can be used as a seating area, and it is quite safe back there. And you can see from the photos that I provided, the landscaping minus the garden suite.
Okay, Nellie?
I have a question regarding variances 2 and 3, and basically there is the 45-degree angular plane variances, and I understand it's due to the mainly due to the dormers, especially on the north and south. Can you confirm that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. It is because it's not starting at the 4 meters. There is an angular plane on the north and south. It does relate moreover to the north and south. It doesn't start at 4 meters and the angular plane commences. It starts at 4.43 meters, and it's, I believe it's approximately 0.43 meters higher is where it starts. And that's what's starting the variances. I highlighted it on the page that you have in front of you.
And if you were to eliminate those dormers, would you be still able to design a 2-bedroom suite?
It would actually infringe on the headspace on the second floor, because there is 2 bedrooms up there. And the angular plane, it would cut into, there's a bathroom up there. There's an area where we have to have windows up there. So the dormers do provide that open space, open air.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Let's take this into committee. Sahir?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just start off by echoing again the comments that I was making earlier to the agent. In principle, I don't have an issue with the garden suite itself. But I think what it does come down to is variance number 1, which is to do with soft landscaping in the rear, which I suspect is also the 35% is requested partly because we've got a parking lot in the back. I have a problem with that parking, the parking spaces. And as I look at the site plan, there are 2 vehicles that are shown, and the one at the lower side, just behind it on, presume on the east side, the west side, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a patio close to the stairs that presumably come from the basement of the main structure. So turning cars around in this space, to me, and I've been driving for, let's see, about 55 years, I think it would be problematic. But I also think that when it comes to families living in a space, you do need green space. And turning this back portion into a bit of a parking lot, for me, is very problematic, so I can't support this application as it's presented.
Okay, anyone else? Nellie?
I'm coming back to the variances 2 and 3. I understand there's a trend to disregard those, the angular plane penetration, bylaws, and it should be important because it does keep the vistas, does keep the views for people, and again, it's a good trend to build, to add garden suites, but it's the way how we do it, and we should do it in a manner that keeps, the enjoyment of, of the space, and it's, in addition to, paving the backyard, I think it's too the massing. I cannot support those those variances.
Anyone else? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I don't know. I see this a bit differently than my colleagues. I think the penetrations into the angular planes are relatively minor compared to other applications we see, mostly limited to the dormers. And I think the actual structure of the laneway suite, from my perspective, is okay. I do have concerns about the parking as well, but I think that with the offer of having permeable pavers for that section, I do see this as a supportable application.
Okay, Dylan?
I'd agree with my fellow Reed. I think the garden suite's fine. The penetration of the angular planes are fairly limited and minor. I share the concern about the second parking spot. That also stands out for me. But I don't see that as sufficient to actually block, especially with the permeable pavers. I mean, I definitely take my colleague Zahir's concerns. It does seem a little too much. But I'm not really sure it's enough to actually decline this application. I take the point of the applicant that there are 4 units on this property, and there may be a need for more than 1 car. So I think it's supportable myself with the condition.
Okay, thank you. For my part, I agree with the brothers Reed. This is an application which is not inconsistent with a lot of the garden suites that we are seeing. And there are parklands that are nearby, so there is accessible amenity space and some green space in and around the garden suite and the adjacent rear of the new dwelling. And we can't suppose who's going to be living there and what their needs are going to be. So I think what is proposed for us with the amendments that have been suggested, I think is a reasonable application. So I'll look to someone for a motion. Mr. Reid?
Thanks, Chair. For the reasons I stated before, I'll move approval of the application, subject to the condition that the parking spaces and driveway be constructed with permeable pavers.
Okay, seconded by Dylan Reid. All in favor? Opposed? Ms. Volport and Mr. Byatt are opposed. The motion is carried. You have your approval with that condition. Thank you. Move on to item number 4. 41 Roxborough Street East. This is an application to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story front addition with a front bay window. The existing ancillary building, detached garage in the rear yard will be maintained and unaltered, and the site has heritage designation. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan received June 21st. A revised zoning notice received June 19th, 3 photographs of trees on the subject property, a cover letter from the agent, presentation materials from the agent, a red line public notice received July 5th. There are correspondence from Heritage Planning. There is additional email correspondence from Heritage Planning and a staff report from Community Planning. Do we have the agent?
And through the chair, I'll note for the record, there are no registered speakers to this item.
Morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Enzo Lacasano. I'm with Arch DWG. I'm the agent for this application.
Okay, sir. Let's just take a moment and make sure we have the right variances before us. Let's pull up the public notice and let's go through them and do a double check, please.
Okay. Actually, if I could, we can go through these first. So we had initially put in a design in, and Heritage came back with some comments with regards to the design of the 3rd-story addition. So we took on the services of ERA Architects in order to work out the issues with Heritage, which in turn Heritage approved. So in turn, when we resubmitted the drawings back to the zoning examiner, we were able to actually delete items number 1 and 2, which was a projected bay window on the 3rd story. I guess if staff could bring up, there's a presentation image.
So just to be, so items, variances number 3 and 4 remain as is?
Well, number 3 remains. Number 4 is revised due, because we don't have the projected bay window, the floor space index was decreased slightly from 0.8 to 0.78.
Okay.
And through the chair, if the agent can state the new meter square.
218.18 square meters.
Okay. Panel, do you want a presentation, a quick presentation? Can you pull up, can we pull up the image of the new structure, proposed structure? Is it in the, is this it here?
Yeah, there it is there. Yep. So there's, I think, so our initial design was very similar to this, but the bay window was actually projected forward as more of a modern take to the design. ERA Architects helped us out with regards to meeting Heritage's concerns, and I personally think they did a fantastic job. I think if they switch over to the next image, it'll show this in context. So there it is now existing. And if you can pull up the next one. There you go. So it actually follows the language of the architecture to the adjacent buildings and to the neighborhood very nicely. So we felt, and Heritage felt, that this was satisfactory to their requirements and meets all their guidelines, and meets our guidelines with the client's needs.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions? Sir, we don't have any questions. Is there anything further you'd like to add before we take it into committee?
No, I think with regards to the height, we're actually matching that there was an addition put on several years ago at the rear, and we're actually matching the same height. And as you can see here, we fall well under the adjacent building and very similar to other buildings in the area.
And you've seen planning's recommendation to tie this to the elevations?
Yes.
You're okay with that?
Yes, we did.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Thank you. All right, we're in committee. Anyone want to take a shot at a motion? Zahir?
Sure, thank you, Chair. I think this is a very acceptable application. I don't see any downsides to it at all. And I think with the amendments that have been made, it makes it even more palatable. I think the rendition was very good because it does show the proposed structure in context, and I think that's quite acceptable. So I'd be quite in favor of moving a motion to approve with, I believe the only condition is the planning condition.
Okay. Motion to approve by Mr. Byatt, subject to planning condition, seconded by Mr. Reid.
Second, but just to clarify that that's as amended with the
It's
removal.
an amended application, correct. Thank you. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Item number 5, 22 Maynard Avenue, has been postponed. Item number 6, 66 Beverly Street. I think Mr. Reid, you've declared a conflict. All right. Item number 6, 66 Beverly Street. This is an application to alter the existing 3-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a rear 3-story addition with a basement below, rear 2nd and 3rd story Juliet balconies, and a partial 4th-story addition with front and rear roof terraces and pergolas. Also to construct a new 2-story detached ancillary building with a basement storage below, containing 1-car garage and 1 laneway suite on the 2nd story, with a front 2nd story Juliet balcony in the rear yard abutting the laneway. There will be a total of 2 dwelling units on the lot. Committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plans received July 3rd, 2024, an arborist report, planning justification letter by Design Plan Services. We have correspondence from Transportation Services, staff reports from Urban Forestry and Community Planning, and an advisory report from Metrolinx. We have correspondence in opposition from 60 Beverly, 62, 56 Beverly, 105 apartment unit 11 Sullivan Street, 33 Sullivan Street, 68 Beverly, 60 Beverly, 205, because it's 11 Sullivan Street, Unit 205. 9 form letters in opposition from Suites 103, 101, 105, 202, 204, 205, 305, and 306 on 11 Sullivan Street. Okay, sir.
And through the chair, we also have the very late deferral request from the agent and the agent here in person, and a number of speakers here in person and online registered to speak.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. If we have your name and address, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. David Eagleman, Associate at Design Plan Services, Inc., 900 The East Mall, Suite 300.
Thank you very much. You are seeking a deferral.
Correct, Mr. Chair. Through you, we are seeking a deferral as we have made revisions to the plans as a result of, excuse me, as a result of discussions with planning staff as well as receiving comments and having some discussions with the neighbors. And the revised plans and new notices have been submitted to the committee, but they were submitted very late. We only received the new zoning notices yesterday, and I was advised by committee staff that that is too late to consider at today's hearing. So as a result, I am requesting a deferral, and perhaps that will allow us more time as well to discuss further with the various parties and see if there's anything else that can be done or if we decide to move forward.
You have, of course, seen Forestry's report refusing a number of variances with respect to this application,
I have, Mr. Chair.
and presumably you're having discussions with Forestry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have not had discussions with Forestry yet. Their report did come in late as well, just a few days ago. And through you, Mr. Chair, frankly, their concern is related to a tree that's dead center in the middle of the backyard, and any as-of-right laneway suite would require the removal of that tree. So you couldn't put a laneway suite on this property without removing that tree, and I don't...
We're not going to get into the merits of that, but I would, if the committee decides to defer this, that would be an obvious point of discussion for you to follow up on.
Understood.
Okay. Panel, any questions? No?
And through the chair to the agent, just to clarify, you're the agent for both items 6 and 7, 66 and 64 Beverly, although they are separate applications.
Okay. So we will have to deal with that as a separate application when we come back.
Understood.
I understand you're probably asking the same deferral for the other one? Is that
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. All right. Do we have some folks in the audience wishing to speak to this?
We do. So we can start with 62 Beverly Street, if you want to come up to the podium.
And thank you for coming down. I know you've got comments on this application, but I'm going to ask you one question, and we're not going to get into the merits of the application. The question to each of you is just going to be whether you agree to a deferral or not.
I agree to the deferral.
Thank you very much. Sorry, your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, it's Sita Ramkalawan Singh, and I'm at 62 Beverly Street.
Thank you. Okay. Next speaker, please. Is there anyone else here on this
Yes,
item?
68 Beverly Street.
Same question, Jimmy. Your name and address, please.
My name is Helene Clarkson, and I live at 68 Beverly Street, and I agree to a deferral.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
33 Sullivan Street.
My name is Pearl Kwong. I reside at 33 Sullivan Street. My son resides at 11 Sullivan Street, apartment 105, and I agree to the deferral.
Thank you.
60 Beverly Street.
Leah Maston, 60 Beverly Street. I agree to the deferral.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here in person to speak to Beverly Street? No, see none. Okay, we'll move to online. There was an address or a person registered to speak from 11 Sullivan Street, Unit 205. Gold, do we have them on the line?
Yes, Christine, you have been unmuted.
Good morning.
Christine, you have been unmuted. Through the chair, we had several attempts to contact Christine Rashid at the address of 11 Sullivan Street via email and phone, but couldn't reach them.
Okay, thanks very much. All right. I think that's it. So we'll take this into committee, panel. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I think a deferral is appropriate here, and there's obviously broad support for it, and I do believe there is work to be done on the application, because in its current form, I have had some issues with it. So I move that we defer the application to give the applicant time to work with neighbors, city planning staff, and urban forestry staff.
Great. Thank you very much. Motion to approve the request for deferral by Mr. Reid, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your deferral on this item, sir. Can you want to pop back up for item number 7? You'll have to bear with me while I read this into the record as well. Item number 7 is 64 Beverley Street. This is an application to construct a new 2-story detached ancillary building with a basement storage below, containing a 1-car garage and a 1-laneway suite on the second story, with a front second-story Juliet balcony in the rear yard abutting the laneway. The existing 3-story townhouse dwelling on the lot will remain unaltered, and there will be a total of 2 dwelling units on the lot. Nicole, do I need to read all the stuff into the record, or can we just say ditto?
Through the chair, we can note for the record that it's the same materials received from item 6.
Right, and it looks like the same correspondence?
Yes, forestry, obviously they're different variances, but we still have the same.
The letters from opposition, though, I think it's basically the same folks. Okay, so we'll dispense with reading all that into the record. Sir, for the record, again, if I could have your name and address and your reasons for deferral.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, David Eagleman, Design Plan Services Associate, 900 the East Mall, Suite 300. And through you, Mr. Chair, the reasons are the same as what I noted. We are waiting for, or we've obtained new zoning notices, but they were just obtained yesterday, and it was too late to consider at today's hearing. And I think for other reasons as well, considering the comments from the neighbors and from various departments at the city, we want more time to consider the proposal and come back at a later date.
Okay. So is it the same owner for both properties?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
But it's 2 separate applications. You'll be bringing forward 2 separate applications, or one?
Through you, Mr. Chair, they're
Separate
townhouses immediately adjacent to each other. They're 2 separate properties, but it is the same owner, and ultimately it is one proposal for both properties. But from a technical perspective, the Committee of Adjustment has to process them as 2 separate applications.
Understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to go through and seek people's consensus for the deferral on this one as well? Or I think we probably should, since they've come down. So I'm sorry, folks. We're going to make you come up and say the same thing again, if in fact you agree with the deferral.
My name is Sita Ramkalawan Singh. I own and live at 62 Beverley Street, and I agree to the deferral.
Thank you. The next person, we might as well do the same order we did last time.
Hello, my name is Helene Clarkson. I live at 68 Beverley Street, and I agree to the deferral.
Thank you.
My name is Pearl Kwong. I reside at 33 Sullivan. My son resides at 11 Sullivan in apartment 105, and I agree to the deferral.
Thank you.
Leah Maston, 60 Beverly Street. I agree to the deferral.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
And through the chair, it appears that we do have Christine from 11 Sullivan Street, Unit 205 on the line now.
Maximum length. If you are satisfied with your message, press 1. To listen to your message, press 2. To erase and
Through the chair, it
re-record it.
appears not. So again, after multiple attempts, we were unable to reach the occupant of 11 Sullivan Street, Unit 205.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, panel, let's take this into committee. Mr. Reid, you want to do the same thing?
For the same reasons I stated for the last property, I'd move deferral of the application.
Okay. Move to defer by Mr. Reid, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval to defer, sir. You've probably heard a lot of comments from the panel in terms of making sure you follow up with the appropriate agencies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're good. Okay. If we can get Mr. Reid back in. Okay, we move on to item number 8, 159 Glenholme Avenue. This is an application to construct a new 2-story ancillary building containing 1 garden suite in the rear yard of an existing 2-story detached dwelling. The committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received June 19th. 3 photographs of trees on the subject property, covering letter from the agent, and a confidential email correspondence from the designer dated July 3rd, 2024. We have correspondence in support from 4700 Keel Street. We have correspondence in opposition from 161, 163, 2 letters from 163 Glenholme, 165 Glenholme, 167. We also have correspondence in opposition from 153, 171, 163, 155, 157, 159 Glenholme Avenue, and from Eli Martin, no address provided. Do we have the agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will note that we did receive some very late correspondence from this agent contemplating a deferral of this application and possible withdrawal, but we'll let the agent speak to that. And we do have 3 registered speakers in opposition on the line as well.
For project update or permit status, please press 2 and we will connect you to our project coordinator. For any other inquiry, please hold and we will connect you to one of our company's representatives.
Through the chair, it looks like we are unable to reach the agent at the moment, so perhaps we stand down this item and come back to it.
Sure. Is there anyone in the room registered speaking on this item? Or that we're, no? Okay. All right. Let's go to item number 9, which is 301 Delaware Avenue. This item has been postponed. Item number 10, 390 St. Clarence Avenue. This item also has been postponed. We want to go to number 11, Nicole?
Sure.
Okay. We move on to item number 11, 217 Poplar Plains Road. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear yard raised pool deck, an in-ground swimming pool, and an at-grade terrace. Also to construct a 1-story ancillary structure, which is a pool cabana in the rear yard. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Site statistics received May 6th. 10 photographs of the subject property, decision number A0475/07TUI, contacting the subject property, correspondence from the agent with Heritage Planning staff, list of comparable applications, cover letter sent from the neighbor to the neighbors from the agent, tree inventory plan, 7 photographs of trees on the subject property received July 5th. Excuse me, we have reports from Urban Forestry. We have correspondence in concern from 179, 181, 185 Balmoral Avenue and 200 Poplar Plains Road. We have correspondence in concern also from the South Hill District Homeowners Association. 2 pieces of correspondence from the association dated July 4th, 2024. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Monica Kuhn. I'm the agent for the owner who's with me here, Daniel Russell.
Great. I think we'll need a presentation from you today.
Not a problem. We are on a corner lot. This has caused some of the issues that have created variances here. We are also, the property has a slope towards the back, so the front of the property is on the left facing Balmoral, but the front door is actually on Poplar Plains. And then the backyard is facing the south on the right-hand side. So there is an existing covered terrace at the back of the house, and there is or was an existing deck about 6 inches down from that terrace, and that went about all the way to 3 feet from the east property line. If you pull it down a little bit more, the other way, sorry. Yeah, okay. There's a large catalpa tree right outside the back kitchen door, and that the old deck went around it, so surrounded that tree. The clients would like to have a swimming pool and a little bit more hardscape that's closer to the ground floor of the house, because it's quite far down from the terrace to the backyard, the covered terrace from the backyard. So what we are constricted by several large trees on this property, one being the catalpa, two being I think it's a maple in the bottom right-hand corner. And then there's a tree that we're asking to have removed, which is on city property, which forestry has had on their books to remove, and recently has decided that they just want to prune it. I'm not sure why. We have an application into forestry, so we're working on that. They just had a few branches fall off the tree this last week, so it is a going concern. So what we've requested is, because of the trees, we've had to move the pool towards the street, towards Poplar Plains, and then we have a raised terrace that is actually built on helical piers so that we don't damage that catalpa tree. And then from that pool terrace, we go down to the lower garden, which has a pool cabana and green space. So we have no issues with soft landscaping in the backyard. We do have a request for a bit less soft landscaping in the side yard, which is where the front door is. So you come up from Poplar Plains, there's a gate and stairs, and then there's kind of like a courtyard, and then there are the front stairs, and then there's a walkway going to the front of the house on Balmoral. So we're asking for 4 variances. The one is the height of the pool platform. So it's coming off of the terrace, the covered terrace at the house, which we've actually dropped 6 inches, and then we've got a section of the pool terrace right beside the house at the same level, and then we step down 2 treads, 3 risers to a section of pool deck right beside the pool, and then there's some stairs that go down. So the height of the platform that's of concern is that section of pool deck right beside the pool beyond the house terrace. So we're asking for it to be 1.45 meters above the lowest grade. So you have to understand that there's the terrace, then there's a slope, and then the yard also slopes. So at the far end, the south end of the terrace, we're at 1.45. The requirement is 1.2. So we're talking about 0.25 meters, which is less than a foot of variance. Number 2 is the side yard soft landscaping, which I just talked about. So that's where the entry is. We are required to have 75%. We are requesting 61%, and that's because we've got a driveway there, we've got that entry court, and then we've got the stairs as well. But there's lots of green space around the rest of the house, and we have green space to the street as well. Number 3 is the pool side yard setback. Because we've had to push the pool towards Poplar Plains because of the tree, we're a bit closer than what we should be. We are required on a corner lot to have the pool setback from the side yard 4.5 meters. We're asking for 3.13. But the thing that you have to remember is that we're still 2.83 meters from the sidewalk. So it's not as if we're right up against the public realm, and there's a high fence in between the yard and the sidewalk. And then the 4th variance is the height of the ancillary building. So the cabana, this only relates to the chimney of the cabana, and we may even bring that down in height depending on whether we end up putting the pool equipment in there or not. We might not even need it. So the building itself works within the 4 meter height requirement.
Great, thanks very much. So I just want to be abundantly clear about this issue with the trees.
Yes.
You saw forestry recommending refusal of the variance because of the potential impact on either removal or did you not see the?
No, I have their note, but I don't.
Can we pull that up, please, on the screen? So forestry is basically recommending that we refuse variance number 2, in part because this, according to them, would require the removal or injury of 2 privately owned bylaw protected trees, 36 and 37, which I think one of them is the catalpa and the other is the silver maple.
So they haven't, I didn't get a copy of that. I just have their general July 3rd memorandum. They didn't call me at all, and we have an application in for forestry. We, based on our arborist report, we think that we can, like, it's our intention to save the catalpa. We've pulled away from it, but we're also using helical piers, so we're not planning to dig in that area. And the other tree, which is the city-owned tree, is the one that we're asking to have removed. It's not a question of whether our work.
And that's the one that you said that they're planning to prune rather than remove.
Yes.
So you'll have a discussion with them, I presume.
We will. If you could go to the photos that I sent in on July 4th. And I know that that's 222 Poplar Plains. They sent in 2 letters. Okay, so keep going down. I'll talk about that later, but keep going down. Next. Okay, so that's the tree in question. And you can see that it's already lost several large limbs, so it's leaning towards the house. There are hydro lines that run through it, so hydro has recently just pruned quite a few branches out of there. And if you keep going, next photo and the ones after that, you'll see it's got some of the barks coming off. It's really not in great shape. Keep going. You can see there that how one-sided it is and the hydro lines there. And next photo. This happened last week on the 3rd. Some branches came down. It's a regular occurrence.
Is that a Norway maple by any chance?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
But that's on city property.
Yes.
That's, you're not planning to build there.
No.
Okay. So just getting back to the other 2, just looking at your site plan, that was when I think many of us had this concern, this confusion about these 2 trees, because on your site plan, it looks like you're protecting them.
Yes.
And forestry is recommending refusal. Your contention is that you're not planning to remove those trees and you're going to
We
try
are planning to remove the one that I just showed you photos of, which is at the bottom of the page. It's in a lighter dash. It says tree to be removed right there. The 2 on the one on the right in the bottom corner and the catalpa tree at the top, we're planning to
Right, but those aren't 36 and 37. 36 and 37 are 2 different trees. 36 is a catalpa and 37 is I think a silver maple in the back.
Right, so we are not touching those.
Okay, that's helpful. And I know we got a lot of correspondence from folks who are concerned about overlook and privacy. Your privacy fence that you're planning is how tall?
So we currently are not having a privacy fence at all. We're having a guardrail at the edge of our terrace. But we're 12 and a half feet away from the east property line, and the neighbor to the east at 185, she has quite a high, she's also got the sloped land, so her terrace and pool is right behind her house, and it comes out, her landscaping comes out to, you see where there's 2 sets of bushes along the top property line. So she's got quite a high fence there. We can't look in from our terrace there, but once we step down onto our pool deck that goes towards the south, we can look into her lower yard, but that's always been the case. So we have been in correspondence with her, and we've offered to either raise the fence or add planting in that area because we are landscaping. And she's had concerns about that potentially it would take some of the light away from her yard. And she doesn't want to raise the fence, but we're open to discussion. We haven't come to a resolution yet.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, panel, any questions? Dylan?
So, I mean, the forestry, you've just seen the forestry memo, which apparently you hadn't seen before.
No.
Would you be open to deferral so you can sort out all the issues with forestry so that we get a clean proposal?
I'd prefer not to because I'm going to have to, I have an application into them anyway. So if they refuse me, then whether you approve me or not is not going to help.
It would just be easier for us to approve it if we knew that all the complications have been resolved already.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you think? Like deferral would mean that we would deal with forestry first and then come back.
I would say that forestry have given us an option. If we choose to approve, then there's a series of conditions associated with it.
Which are?
Just for consideration.
Yeah, but I just don't feel qualified to make decisions on about the trees, given forestry's, concerns. So.
Okay. Anyone else?
So you don't want to defer even if we.
Well, I don't see the point. If they refuse me, then I can't go ahead with what I've got. I'm going to have to come back with something else.
If we follow forestry's condition, then we would deny variance number 2.
Which is?
It's the soft landscaping.
But that's the side yard, not the rear yard. Has nothing to do with any of those trees.
It is a little confusing.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? We do have someone waiting to speak on this item.
Through the chair, we do have 2 speakers in person to this item.
Great. Okay, thank you. Who's first? Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Janelle Lassonde, and I live at 185 Balmoral Avenue, directly to the east, so I'm the owner and the resident there.
Okay, you have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the committee. It's quite a day to talk about a swimming pool, so I thought I'll start with something a little bit different. One of the most important things that allows us peace and stability in the busyness of our days in this busy city of Toronto is the place where we live. I'm a new owner and resident, newish, of Balmoral Avenue, and I am very grateful for the neighbors I've gained. I, like my neighbors, am very pleased that the gorgeous Eden Smith Heritage House at 217 Poplar Plains will soon be occupied. We want our neighbors to be happy there, and we want them to feel our sense of community. So my first thing is that we prioritize mutual respect and mutual accommodation. They've mentioned my house in the prior discussion, and there is a long side fence between my property and the property in question. And so my concern is largely with the elevation of the pool deck, which does extend deep into the backyard. There's a garden fence on my property that's roughly 6 feet high. And even with a small grade difference between our backyards, because theirs is about maybe half a foot higher than mine, the fence does create at this point sufficient privacy. Building up this fence is an easy answer to accommodate the proposed building plans, but I really have no desire to further enclose my garden. It's an interior property. It's not on the corner. And so a higher fence would compromise the character of the backyard. Already it's shady. Already I'm having a hard time growing sod. And a higher fence would block out the westerly light. And it really, frankly, would create sort of a tunnel effect. In this context, a pool deck, even if it remains at the stipulated 1.2 meters above grade, it's already a lot of elevation to add in the neighboring yard. It's nearly 4 feet. that's kind of up to here on me. It's also, with the grade difference between the yards, about 1.5 feet or so lower than the fence that is there. So the pool deck already is high, given the authorized level. And now there's a requested 20% increase in the height beyond code. So that's a maximum height that would occur midway down the garden. When someone would stand on that pool deck right there, the existing boundary between our properties would come up to their kneecaps, or maybe even their shins. Then, in addition to the pool deck, of course, there's going to be a railing or an enclosure, another 36 or 42 inches, whatever the code is, and all of that adds to the towering nature of the construction that will be next door. Does the pool deck need to be this high? I should say not. I've studied the situation with Richard Summer and Laura Miller, who are neighbors across the street and professors of architecture at the University of Toronto. He was the former dean. They did write a letter, and for some reason it just didn't get uploaded to the system. They have helped me see that changes in design to comply with the zoning are relatively minor. The proposed pool can easily fit within the 1.2 meters above grade with minor redesigns of the steps from the house and the remaining steps to the pool cabana. The layout, as proposed, is not a matter of necessity. There's no demonstration of hardship that justifies the proposed variance. The structure is a matter of design. It's a matter of choice. I should not have to modify my property to accommodate the construction. So despite these images, I'm not so naive to have confidence that we're going to halt the wheels of development, but I'm happy to be surprised. In spite of the plea here and the words and letters of others, if the committee does deem that the 1.45% meter above grade as a requested variance is reasonable and appropriate, I would ask that the deck structure is masked at its edge, not at the boundary of the property in a way that encloses the backyard. But whatever the outcome, I want to stress that comfort and peace in the places we live are the most important. And I'll return to how I started out. I hope and trust that we will prioritize mutual respect and mutual accommodation. And I look forward to welcoming our new neighbors and having them be part of our Balmoral community. That's it.
Thank you very much. Panel, any questions? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Jan Duma. I live at 181 Balmoral Avenue. I know both of the properties quite well. I lived there for several years, more than 15 years. And I would say that what Monica Kuhn said, about the raised deck over there, the kitchen deck, what used to be there, this deck had its own fence, and that was not kind of like creating the privacy, was creating the privacy right at the perimeters of this deck, not basing on the fence what is between the properties. So it was the separate fence, kind of like for the privacy. So what I would like to say that it should be kind of like taken into consideration the fact that there is raised pool deck. It could be maybe overpowering other properties, and then the pool deck has, I would say, it would be also kind of like a social place. So thinking of the transmitting the noise and being visible, and I think it's a little bit maybe too much to ask, for this variance of the raised pool deck, So that was just like to add to my neighbor what she was saying, yes. Okay. And then if it's any questions, I know both of the properties quite well because we were neighboring well, I knew the former owners of both properties.
Great.
very well.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hang on a sec. Any questions, folks? Okay. All right. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Can you go back to the photos? There were the two first photos in that run of tree photos. So this was the old kitchen deck, and it did, as Jan said, have its own fence, which was higher even than Janelle's fence beside her property. And if you go to the next one, please, you can see that from the deck there was a series of stairs, there were a series of planting beds, and then there's the lower deck in the lower garden, and you can see how much lower it is and also that it slopes. But I think also importantly, you can see how planted it is, both on our side but also on Janelle's side. So as I did say, I was there yesterday standing on that step terrace, and I could see into the lower garden, but it was screened by the trees. So anyway, just wanted you to have a better feeling for that.
Okay, so
do you have any preference? Do you want to try to go ahead and see if we get approval and then deal with forestry separately? Or do you want to defer and try to deal with the neighbors and forestry before we come back?
I'd rather get this resolved right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Panel, any questions? Dylan?
Just a quick one. So this picture here, is the pool going to be at that level, or is it going to be higher up?
The pool, so you can see those two stepped planters there. The pool deck is going to be about a foot or a foot and a half higher than the top one.
Okay.
But remember also, we're 12 and a half feet away. It's not like I'm at the edge looking down. You have to look beyond and then over.
Right. Thank you.
So your neighbor made a suggestion architecturally that, you could probably, with some reconfiguration of the stairs, you could probably meet the bylaw in terms of height. Is that something that you've considered, or is that impractical?
We have considered it, but the wish was, the design wish was that we have the pool deck as close to the ground floor of the house, that we didn't have to step down so far and push the pool further back into the backyard. So we're talking about a foot. It's not a big deal. I understand that. If we could get it, we would be happy to. If you decide that you would like to refuse that variance, then we will deal with it.
Okay. Panel, any further questions? Yes, Zahir?
Just a quick one. How much consultation has there been between you and your two neighbors?
So we sent out a letter several weeks ago to 20 neighbors, and I've had correspondence with Janelle and Jan on the phone and by email. And I've had conversation with Mary from 222. I think her husband is the one who's the head of the Ratepayers Association, and her concern was mainly that the fence facing the sidewalk and her house remain greened, and she didn't want to have that tree come down. Those were her concerns.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Let's take this into committee. Anyone want to start off with some comments? Nellie?
I have a concern about the, variance number 2 and the confusion, which appears to be because I think the owners and the agents, it seemed like they're talking about a different tree from the forestry is talking about. So, here I'm just trying to understand what's the best way. If you just refuse variance number 2, it won't go away. They'll have to deal with it anyway, right? But is it the best way to, or maybe we should defer it? That's,
So I'll just from my perspective, so there's kind of three things here, right? So you could refuse variance number 2, which is actually a variance for landscaping, not actually trees, which is kind of confusing. You could approve it, and then you could approve it with conditions, right? So the panel has kind of 3 options on how to deal with it. Peter?
Yeah, and approving it with conditions, I mean, that still then puts the ball in urban forestry's court, and they could choose to not allow those trees to be removed. Like they would have final say on that.
And I think that's what the agent was saying, right? Is you can defer now, or we can go ahead, but they still have to get forestry approval regardless. And if there is confusion about the trees, which I'm suspecting there may be, then I think that could be fairly easily resolved through a discussion with forestry. That'd be my view of it. I will take the agent at their word that they have no intention, and the site plan seems to imply that they're not planning to remove those trees. I think that there may be some confusion here.
Yeah, that would be my understanding too. I'll just make a couple comments on the application. I understand the concerns of the neighbors, but I believe the variances are pretty minor. Like it is talking about just about a foot higher than is permitted, and I think there is adequate separation from the neighboring house, and there's a lot of greenery and fencing, and I think it's a supportable application with the forestry conditions.
Okay. Anyone else? Or do you want to make a motion, Peter?
Well, I don't know. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add? I mean, I know we've talked a lot about the trees, and I have faith that forestry is on this file and that the agent will work with them to get it. So I move approval of the application subject to the 2 conditions in the forestry memo.
Okay. Motion to approve by Mr. Reed. Do I have a seconder? Ms. Volpert? Zahir, did you have a comment you want to make?
No, I was going to second with just reflecting, I think, Mr. Reed's comments are well. I think they follow my thinking as well.
Okay. So motion to approve with conditions with respect to forestry, moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Ms. Volport. All in favor? You opposed? Mr. Dylan Reed is opposed. The application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you, of course, will have to have some follow-up discussions with forestry on this one.
Absolutely. As I say, we have an application in, and I haven't heard anything from them, so I'm just surprised that they kind of sideswiped me and went through to committee. So,
Thank you very much. Can we go back to item number 8?
Through the agent, or through the chair, yes, we'll circle back to the agent for item number 8.
Okay. So I read this into the record, I think, didn't I? Yeah.
Through the chair, yes.
I think I did.
Yes, you did.
Thank you. All right, if we can have, this is item number 8, 159 Glenholme. Can we have the agent, please?
Yes, hi. This is Salik Imtiaz. I'm representing from Permit Works, and I'm representing the client for 159 Glenholme Avenue.
If I could just ask you to speak up just a little bit. We're having a little difficulty hearing you.
Oh, yes. Is this better now?
Yes, thank you.
Of course. Yes, so I'm the agent representing the owner for 159 Glenholme Avenue. And my company is Permit Works. We are situated in Markham at 3575 14th Avenue, Unit 18.
And we got his name. This is Mr. Lowe?
So this is Salik Imtiaz.
Okay.
I work for Mr. Lowe. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, we'll need a presentation, sir.
So I am here today to request a deferral for this application because of the discussions that I had with my client and also the raised concerns from the neighbors. So my client has decided to defer this application to maybe work on the application a little bit more with the neighbors as well and take their concerns into account. So we would like to request a deferral, please.
Okay, so you're seeking a deferral.
Correct.
Thank you. Do we have?
And through the chair, we do have a registered speaker listed in interest from 45 Callender Street, Gold. Do we have them on the line? Through the chair, sorry, wrong address. We have 2 people registered in opposition from 165 Glenholme Avenue and 161 Glenholme Avenue. Do we have them on the line? Okay.
Okay.
So Jacqueline from 163 Glenholme Avenue, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi. Good morning. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Yes, this is Jacqueline Carsemeyer, 163 Glenholme Avenue.
Okay, so
Yes.
you may have heard the agent is seeking a deferral in part because they would like to have further discussions with neighbors such as yourself. There's only really one thing I need from you is, are you in support of that deferral request?
I am not in support of deferral.
You do not support deferral? Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Janice, you have been unmuted.
Good morning.
65. Sorry. My name's Jan McIntyre. I live at 165 Glenholme Avenue. I also do not support deferral. There's not really any reason. I mean, the applicant has had many opportunities to consult with the neighbors and has not done so before this point in time.
Okay. You did hear the agent indicated that they would be interested in having those discussions going forward, right?
I did, but as I said, there has been no discussions or anybody reaching out from the agent to this point.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Anyone else?
David, you have been unmuted.
At 161 Glenholme. Good morning.
Mr.
My name is
Pedersen?
David Peterson. I live at 161 Glenholme.
Great, sir. Are you in support or oppose the request for a deferral?
I'm torn, but I'll give a discussion an opportunity contrary to my neighbors.
Okay, so you support a deferral.
In doing so, do all the letters of opposition stand, or do we start this whole thing over again?
Well, it will depend on the outcome of those discussions. One possible outcome would be that the agent and applicant would have discussions with you and others and would satisfy any concerns you might have raised. And if that's the case, then you can withdraw those letters. If they come forward again after those discussions and you still have some concerns, you can either write in again or just submit your original letter.
Okay, I'll support a deferral.
Thank you. All right. I don't think we need to go back to the agent. We'll take it into committee. Yes, Dylan, do you have a question? No. Okay, we'll take it into committee. Dylan?
I was just going to move a motion for deferral. So I'd like to move a motion to defer this item so that the applicant can consult with the neighbors, consider some revisions to the plans, and also I would like to add resolve the bicycle parking in the plans because it does not look very convincing at the moment. Okay. I know that was one of the concerns of the neighbors too.
That's great. Thank you. Motion to approve the deferral by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? This application is deferred. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, the next item, number 12, is also a deferral request, so perhaps we can handle that and then consider a quick comfort break.
Yeah, good idea. All right. We go to item number 12. Hang on a second. This is 43 Callender Street. This is an application to convert a 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling with 2 residential dwelling units into 4 residential dwelling units, a fourplex, by constructing a rear 3-story addition with a rear 3-story deck. Also to construct a new ground floor front porch, a front basement walkout, a side exterior access stairs, providing access to the second and third stories, and the existing ancillary building abutting the laneway in the rear yard would be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of trees on the subject property, a deferral request from the agent, and a rental housing declaration form. We have email correspondence from community planning strategic initiatives, planning policy and analysis, staff review from urban forestry. Good morning, sir. We see you again. This is your 3rd deferral today.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I guess, yes, 3rd deferral technically, but the previous applications were theoretically 1, but
okay.
Yes.
Your name and address, please, again, for the record.
David Eagleman, a Design Plan Services Associate, 900 the East Mall, Suite 300.
And you're requesting a deferral?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. In this case, we are requesting a deferral as the owner would like to consider making further revisions and modifications to the plans. And as a result, we would need to obtain new zoning notices. So we would like 4 more time to do that.
Okay.
And through the chair, we do have 1 registered speaker listed in interest. We'll see if they're on the line. 45 Callender Street. Rosie? Through the chair, after multiple attempts, we were unable to reach Rosie from 45 Callender Street.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We take this into committee, the request for deferral. Mr. Reed?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think it's reasonable. If the plans are going to change, then I think the applicant should have an opportunity to do that. So I move that we approve the deferral request.
Okay, motion to approve the deferral, seconded by Mrs. Bolport. All in favor? You have your deferral. Will we see you back this afternoon, or you're good for the day?
Not this afternoon, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, let's take a 10-minute break, please.
Okay.
Some-
Please mute your microphones, turn off your video.
Do you want me to just do it right now? Oh, it's for live, okay.
Okay, folks, we'll get restarted. Are we live? Okay, thank you. We are going to resume with item number 13, but before we do, we will take care of a little housekeeping item. Mr. Reed indicated for items 6 and 7 that he had a conflict. The chair neglected to seek Mr. Reed's reasons for that, so I'll ask you for the reasons for your conflict.
A long acquaintance with one of the opponents.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we will proceed with item number 13, 148 Simpson Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story addition above the rear 2-story portion of the dwelling, a rear 1-story addition with a rear 2nd-story rooftop balcony, and a rear ground floor deck. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, decision number A0398/13TEY affecting the subject property, 5 photographs of trees on the subject property, and a tree site plan. We have an advisory report from Metrolinx and 6 letters in support signed by owners occupants of 146 and 150 Simpson Avenue, 153, 155, 157 Victor Avenue, and 526 Logan Avenue. Do we have the agent online?
Good afternoon. My name is Heather Asquith, and I'm the applicant and agent for the file at 148 Simpson Avenue.
Hi, Heather. Can you just speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure. Is this better?
Yes, thank you. Okay, just hang on a sec. Maybe just a short presentation, Heather?
Yeah, absolutely. The owners of the property are looking to construct a 3rd-story addition on top of an existing 2-story structure at the rear of the house, plus a new 1-story rear addition with a 2nd-story balcony above. Also a new rear deck and side canopy. The owners are seeking 2 variances. First, to allow a sidewall height over 8.5 meters. At its highest point, the sidewall is 9.8 meters. And the second variance is to allow for an FSI of 1.16, which is 194.51 meters squared. To address the variances specifically, with regard to variance 1, the addition aligns fully with the 2-story structure below and does not project above the height of the existing house, minimizing the impact from the street. Although this 3rd-story addition increases the sidewall height, the height of the addition is shorter than the existing house. I'll note there are several additions along the north side of Simpson Avenue, and these extensions are a common improvement to these narrow houses in this neighborhood. The sidewall height variance requested is in keeping with similar approvals in the area, and we submitted specific addresses for these precedents in a cover letter and proposal summary that was submitted to the committee earlier. With regard to variance 2, the footprint of the new 1-story addition does not project beyond the adjacent addition at the attached house at 146 Simpson. And it's similar to FSIs that have been approved in the area. And again, we cited some specific addresses in the proposal summary previously submitted. And finally, we feel the proposed variances are minor and meet the 4 tests as a suitable improvement for the property.
Great. Thanks very much. Panel, any questions? So here.
Just one quick question, please, if I may. It's just a fairly, from my perspective, fairly straightforward application. It's just you've got a balcony on the second floor at the rear. I believe it's above what is proposed to be the new living room. I don't know, I can't quite figure out whether there's overlook issues or you may have overlook issues to, might be the west side or the east side, one of the two, or maybe both. Can you just speak to that?
Sure. The balcony is much smaller than the new addition, so it projects 3'6" from that back rear wall. So it kind of tucks itself in between the additions on either side. I know they're one story, but the intention is that the balcony is small and does not, project a lot into the rear yard.
Yeah, I take it it's not large enough for a party, so that's good news. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, any further questions? Great, let's take this into committee. Dylan?
I'd like to move that we accept this proposal. The changes are minor, the variances are minor. It seems really well thought out and considerate. Both of the neighbors have signed letters saying that they support it. It seems like a really well thought out addition, so I move we support it. We approve the variances, sorry.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid, no conditions, seconded.
Advisory?
It's just
No, it's just an advisory. Seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Move on to item number 14, 14 Peveril Hills. This is an application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition. Also construct a hammerhead turnaround driveway will be installed in the front yard. Committee has before it copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of trees on the subject property, email correspondence from Transportation Services, I think indicating that they're okay with the driveway. Do we have the agent?
Through the chair, I'll also note for the record that there's no registered speakers to this item and that we did receive some very late correspondence from the agent with revised plans and a red-lined notice. So there were some revisions, so we can have the agent speak to that. And we also did receive, for the record, from Community Planning, a very late email stating that they would be supportive of the application given the revisions to the provision of soft landscaping as shown in the latest revised site plan.
Okay, well, that's great. Do we have the agent?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Kirschenblatt Urban Architecture. I am the agent and architect for this application. As noted, last-minute request from Community Planning suggested some changes in the front yard to increase the soft landscaping. So we've agreed to that, which resulted in a change to variance 2. So we're asking for a relief from 50% to 40%, not the 30%, that 31% we asked for, which gave us 34.6 square meters of front yard landscaping. And the bylaw, and number 3, because of the change, you're required to provide 75% of the required to be soft. So this change that Community Planning asked for was all in the form of soft landscaping. And it resulted then that this variance was no longer needed. And I just wanted to point out that the hammerhead driveway at the front is an existing condition. It's not a new idea. It exists on the property today. And we're just, I guess, asking for it to be maintained, but we will alter it to increase the front yard landscaping as requested. The other variants are straightforward. The only interesting one is the side yard variance. I think it's number, let me just find that one.
It's number 7.
Yeah, number 7. So that .94 side yard only occurs to the front addition, where we're extending the garage forward to the main front wall. But the addition to the rear is 1.2 meters in compliance with the zoning bylaw. So it was only that small little bump out of the garage that created that 0.9, but beyond that, we're at 1.2. And the FSI, I think, is appropriate to the neighborhood. It's in character with the neighborhood. We are not asking for a length variance, and we are not asking for height variances.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. Panel, any questions? I think we're good, sir. Let's take this into committee.
Just a point of clarification, Chair. Which was the variance that is being removed?
Sorry, something's buzzing over here.
Through the chair, staff can put the red line notice back up on the screen.
Or variance 2?
Variance 3 is
Sorry,
being
variance
removed.
3. Terrific, thank you.
So that's the one they're eliminating?
Yes.
Okay, and modifying
That's
number 2?
modified.
Okay. All right, any comments?
Just a question of staff. In the community planning email, did they want it tied to the most current site plan?
Through the chair, if staff can pull up from the very late materials folder, the exact email from community planning. So community planning states that they're supportive of the application given its revisions to the provision of soft landscaping as indicated on the site plan. So they don't explicitly state that they want it tied to the site plan, but of course it's up to the members if they wish to do so. They could always impose that condition, but planning is just weighing in that they're supportive of the change.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Ellie?
I think given the revised plans and the support from the planning, I see this application and the fact that the Hammerhead driveway actually it's an existing condition and it's going to be improved a little bit by the landscaping. I think it's a very supportable application. I suggest to approve it, but tied to the plans received, I think, today or
to the site plan.
Yes, the site plan to received. I'm not mistaken. It's today, right? Or
through the chair, and that's an amended application. And the revised plans, I believe the date was yesterday. If staff can just confirm they're in the revised or the very late folder. I believe it was late yesterday.
Oh, 8th.
July 8th.
Okay.
Okay, motion to approve the amended application by Ms. Volport, tying it to the site plan. Any seconder? Mr. Reed, all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. You have your approval. Item number 15, 217 Richview Ave. This is an application to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling with a front integral garage, a front covered porch, a rear second elevated deck with stairs, a rear basement walkout with stairs, and a rear in-ground swimming pool. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 6 photographs of the subject property, decision number A0686/19 TUI affecting the subject property, and we have a report from Urban Forestry. Do we have the agent?
Through the chair, no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent on the line.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee.
Mr. Benskowski, good morning. Your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, Jonathan Benskowski, 301 Pewatin Avenue.
Panel, do we need a presentation or you want to go straight to questions? I think, Mr. Benskowski, is it already constructed or is it, just can you give us an overview what's going on with this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So as you said, there's a previous approval for variances that authorize essentially the build form in the dwelling exactly as it appears from the street, as well as in the rear as it exists today. What has happened was there was a small portion as you entered off of the garage, that was kind of a closed mezzanine that during construction, the owner decided to essentially open up this closed portion of a mezzanine. So again, the inclusion of the additional floor area is really the only added variance. Because of the new definition of a basement, this is now being considered the first floor of it, which again triggers the inclusion of the additional FSI, which now triggers the variances for the balcony sizes and locations. But prior to this application, again, the dwelling is constructed exactly from the view we see here as it would regardless of the outcome today. Again, it was a small alteration to a mezzanine level that pushes the FSI, because now other approved areas of that basement are now considered, again, part of FSI. So there is no change to the built form, the bird's eye view, the height, the balcony, or the setbacks with the application. It's just now because it's pushed every floor up that we are requesting approval for the built form that is already approved.
Okay, there's forestry conditions. Have you cleared those conditions in relation to your original application?
They have all been cleared.
But we still have them before us, right? So we'd have to include them, but you've already basically satisfied them.
Correct. The dwelling is built. The moment this is hopefully approved, it will be hitting the market for sale. So it is essentially completed with an issued forestry permit from the original application.
Okay. Panel, any questions? Zahir?
Good morning. Just a quick question with regard to the rear deck that you've got. I think it's essentially only on the north side because it's a raised deck. There may be overlook on the neighboring property on the south side. I see it'll be overlooking the pool, and it's not that, it's only half the width of the house or thereabouts. So I was just wondering about the north side, whether that could be considered for privacy screening.
Through you, Mr. Chair, what I would say, Mr. Bayat, is really that's part of the original approved permit that was already issued. I don't believe at that time there was an inclusion of the privacy screening as it faces the north. But again, the variance for the deck essentially is just caused because every floor has been pushed up one level. So although, again, it is considered now essentially the second floor, that was previously the first floor on the previously approved application about 3 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Let's take this into committee. Seems fairly straightforward to me. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think this is almost a technical variance that's before us. The structure is not changing, and just because of this mezzanine alteration, these variances have arisen. I would ask one thing just of the applicant for future applications like this. I think it'd be helpful to have a covering letter just explaining that sort of the reasoning for coming back for these variances. But these variances are, I think, extremely minor and have no impacts on the neighbors in being approved. So I move approval, and I think just for safety's sake, we'll keep the urban forestry conditions.
Urban forestry condition 1 and 2. Moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by the other Mr. Reed.
I just wanted to say that the agent's explanation was very helpful, but I concur with my colleague that a covering letter would have been, even a very brief one, would have been very helpful.
Great. Seconded by Ms. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval. Ms. Benskowski, you are a frequent flyer at the committee. Maybe take those comments to heart when you do have these kinds of applications. You could include a cover letter to help the committee understand it. Thank you. We move on to item 16, 61 Kippendavie Ave. This is an application to construct a new 3-story semi-detached dwelling with a covered front porch, a rear ground floor deck with stairs, front and rear 3rd-story terraces, and a rear basement walkout. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of trees on the subject property, cover letter from the agent, decision number A0458/23TEY affecting the subject property, We have staff reports from Urban Forestry and Community Planning. We have a second staff report, revised staff report from Urban Forestry, and 2 form letters in support from 48 and 60 Kippendavie Avenue. Do we have the agent with us?
Through the chair, for the record, we have no registered speakers to this item, and we have the agent on the line.
Hi, this is Othman Stambuk at 15 Moreland Road. Can you hear me well?
If you could speak up just a little bit. I don't know if we're having trouble in the room hearing today, but if you could speak up, that would be helpful.
Absolutely, I'll try. It sounds like I'm screaming to myself, but you guys must hear something else.
Okay, thank you. You, of course, have probably seen planning staff's recommendation to refuse variance number 1.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have, and I have a presentation to give about that recommendation and what are the options and how we feel about it.
That's great. You've basically been here before. You received an approval, and this is some amendments to those. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Off you go then, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you said, we have been here before for it was back in July of 2023 for a new 3-story house proposal at this address, and it was in front of the committee and approved for 6 variances ranging from wall height to FSI. And I added that decision to the AIC if needed for reference, because I feel like we're not asking for a lot more with this application for this unbuilt house. That is the key thing. Nothing has been built. But we are asking for more because the city and the world has gotten even more volatile since 2023. And this has fueled a need and a desire to make sure that this home is a forever home for the owners and possibly their children. They want their kids to have a place to call home indefinitely, since housing will probably not get cheaper in Toronto unless everything else falls apart. And in this area, in the beaches especially, where sometimes one can feel like they're 100 kilometers outside the city on a clear, quiet Sunday morning. So it is a unique area. So they want to build a big enough home that can be multi-generational. Which is a term and an objective of many homeowners I work with in the past year or two, because this is a new option people are looking at. Like many people, we're actually even working on a garden suite design at this property with the intention to keep the family together or give enough space for that to be a reality. And this is the central takeaway or reason for the need for these variances, and in particular the FSI variance. The purpose is to build a large enough home to keep the family together comfortably and to stay in this very unique neighborhood. And opinions can differ on the needed size of space for these objectives, but after almost a year of work on these plans, this is what they want for 3 kids, 2 adults, and 2 dogs. And I tend to wholeheartedly agree. Another reason you should approve the FSI variance is because this is not being proposed by a builder trying to maximize profit on a flip project. I can tell you from experience, a builder would never try and build this house on this lot after doing the financial calculations. If approved, this undertaking will be difficult and costly, and they will face many obstacles. Like the area has a high water table commonly present in construction, and they have to underpin, not just to increase the space of their basement, but also to underpin to attach to an existing semi, which is not very common practice for new homes. And then there's site access issues as always. But what they will not face is obstacles from neighbors, since this application has not provoked any opposition from the neighborhood. The attached neighbors are close friends, and they support this application and undertaking, which is a critical factor. It's one of the first things that I encourage them to look at when they even thought about building a new house attached to an existing semi. So this last year, was a labor of love, really, to adjust the plan so it's easier to justify the proposed project and expense. It actually may be financially easier to uproot, buy a new detached house on a new lot, and then they would lose their neighbors and neighborhood. But that's not what they want. They want to stay.
Sir, can I just ask you just to be clear about what you're actually changing from the previous application to what you're adding more FSI, but what exactly are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I outlined some of those items in my cover letter, but this next part of my presentation may address that more effectively, because planning contacted us about 2 weeks ago and they wanted a reduction to 1.08 FSI. And that's about 12 meters square less than what we are proposing, or approximately 130 square feet. And so that is kind of the brunt of what is being changed. Also, the roof height, the height of the building has changed a little bit because we are trying to facilitate better rainwater drainage. We had a flat roof in the previous application, and that was going to cause problems down the years, as flat roofs tend to. So we created a little bit more of a gabled roof, and that has affected the wall height and things like that. So the issue is that we would have worked with planning, but we got contacted by them only 2 weeks ago, and that means we only had about 1 week to submit any changes, which is not nearly enough time to even consider this for a plan that has been in careful development for a year, even if we were to try to meet their request. And the reason we didn't jump on it right away is it's very relevant that the back of this property faces a park and will always face a park. And another reason the family wants to stay put. This means the impact of the massing is greatly reduced, such as in terms of privacy issues, shadows, overlook, etc. But the homeowners are willing to reduce the FSI variance to 1.10, where it is 1.12 right now. And I don't think that should require a deferral if committee would see the merits of that, since it can be done by removing some of the area of the back of the house and the third floor in particular, as I have been working on frantically for the past week. But there wasn't enough time to submit anything to you. So if you still need the FSI reduction after my presentation, then this is the offer of the family. They are willing to go to 1.10 but they would certainly prefer to keep the variance as it stands at 1.12 FSI. And that was kind of the brunt of this. This justification is really what we have done is increase the FSI to make it easier to stay here and to justify the massive cost this will have.
Okay.
And so that's what we come with before you today. And I'm of course, if further explanations are needed, I'm ready to reply to your questions or comments.
Thank you, sir. So just to recap, when you were and your client were here before, you received approval for an FSI of 1.06. And you're back today asking for an FSI of 1.12, which is 0.06 more than what you were previously approved.
Yes.
Okay. Panel, any questions, Dylan?
Just to clarify, so the extended, the additional FSI is, you said that you're enclosing, what was it going to be, a back deck? And that was one of the primary things?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. The back deck was going to be inside the house. Now it's moved outside, and that main floor is now fully enclosed. There isn't this cutout for the deck, and also the third floor has slightly increased in size, and that has resulted in that.
Right. So you just pushed the third floor a little further along the.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's take this into committee. Dylan.
I am baffled by the planning.
I think I am too.
Thing. This is incredibly minor change in FSI. I have no understanding of why planning would be trying to change 0.04 proportion FSI. I think it is completely unnecessary interference in really quite a thoughtful plan that's obviously supported by neighbors and will provide more living space for people in a desirable neighborhood, in a desirable location. So if my fellow
Dylan, before you go, so they offered to 1.10, but they have
no.
It seems to me 1.112.
1.112, I do not want to modify it at all.
I
think it's a perfectly reasonable proposal, and I find planning's intervention baffling. So I don't know if any of my colleagues want to speak, but otherwise I will.
So here, did you want to make a point?
The only addition I would suggest is that the rear of the house has got a third floor balcony that it would have overlook.
Did it have a condition on the previous approval? Let's just double check.
I don't know, but that would be the only thing, some privacy screening on.
Yeah, there was a condition on the previous approval for the same thing.
So that's already still in place.
That'll still be in place.
Okay, great. Yeah, so if no one else, I would like to make a motion to approve all the variances unchanged with forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Okay. Yeah. Motion to approve, subject to forestry condition 1 and 2 by Mr. Reed, seconded by the other Mr. Reed. All in favor? Opposed? Ms. Volport is opposed. The motion carries. You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 17. 362 Markham Street. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition, a rear 3rd-story addition, and a rooftop deck above the existing rear 2-story portion of the dwelling. The rear ground floor deck will be demolished. Committee has before a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 11 photographs of the subject property, a report from Urban Forestry, and 5 form letters in support by owners occupants of 250, 360, 381, 383A, and 394 Markham Street. We have the agent.
Through the chair, there are no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent on the line.
Hello, yes. My name is Philippe Beauparlant. I am the agent representing the client at 362 Markham Street. This is a straightforward application.
Yeah, just hang on a sec, sir. The panel, does anyone need a presentation on this one? Sir, I think we agree with you. It's a fairly straightforward application. Does anyone have any questions? Sir, we don't have any questions. We've read all the information. We're familiar with your application. Is there anything you'd like to share with the committee before we take it for a decision?
I think only 2 things. I guess, first of all, from a FSI perspective, we're permitted is 0.69. The existing residence is at 0.83, and we're asking 0.95. So it's really just an increase of 0.12. And the other concern was a privacy screen on the rooftop deck. This was communicated via email with the planning assistant, and we would agree to have a privacy screen between the 2 semi-detached houses. I would propose something of 2 meters, so that way when someone is standing, privacy is still achieved.
Okay, would you like us to make that a condition of approval?
We can certainly do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're in committee. Nellie?
Here it is, straightforward. I think there is a forestry condition, number 2, I can see. And so I would propose to approve it with the forestry condition and the privacy screen at 2 meters as suggested.
Okay.
Through the chair, the standard for privacy screen is a minimum of 1.5 meters, so the condition will read minimum of 1.
Okay.
Okay.
So the applicant will on their own move it up to 2 meters. Okay. All right, motion to approve by Ms. Volport, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you very much. Item number 18. This is the last item of the morning session. This is 19 McMaster Avenue. It's an application to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by reconstructing the front covered porch and stairs. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 6 photographs of trees on the subject property, and correspondence and support from 21 McMaster and Mr. Josh Klein. No address provided. Do we have the agent?
Through the chair, no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent on the line.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your name and address, please.
I am Kathy Garrido from Sustained Design Architects at 1724 Queen Street West in Toronto.
Okay, I don't think we need a presentation on this application. Panel, does anyone have any questions? Dylan?
Just one question. In terms of soft landscaping, is that you're just rebuilding the front covered porch? So is it an existing condition basically? You're a little under the soft landscaping, or are you actually going to be reducing the soft landscaping?
No, it's an existing condition. Because we ever so slightly changed the proportion of the porch, it triggers the variance. So the front yard in that area, they're all very small. So there really isn't much we could have done differently to change that situation. It's just that the front of the house to the front property line is only 6 meters.
Right.
So once you take off the porch and the walkway, you don't have much choice.
Thank you very much.
We don't quite need it.
And it looks like your walkway is flagstones, and it doesn't look like it's cemented in, so that looks like it will also allow water to permeate through.
Correct.
Great, thank you. All right. Anything further? All right, let's take this into committee. Zahir?
Thank you, Chair. This is such a straightforward one. It's a great way to end the morning session. I'd like to move approval. I don't believe there are any conditions attached to this application.
Motion to approve by Mr. Byatt, seconded by Mr. Reed, Dylan Reed. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, ma'am. All right, we will break for lunch. We will be back at 2. We will be back at 2 p.m. Thank you, everyone.